Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. Have a question here from Faris Al Rife. Hope I said that right. Hello, I have a question. I want to buy a mirrorless camera and I'm very lost in options. Even if I get the Sony a6000, Panasonic G7, Sony a7, Fujifilm X-T10, or wait for the new Sony a6100. So yeah, that's a toughie because there's a lot of good cameras in there. I was seeing your videos and you highly recommend the Panasonic G7 plus 14 to 140 kit lens. Yes, I do. Shooting with my G7 right now. Love it. So your advice will help a lot as my range is more than 1,000 to 1,500. So I think what he's saying is his range is $1,000 to $1,500. Also, I want to shoot stills and videos. 70% stills, 30% videos. Thanks. Okay, well, love the Sony a6000. Not as big a fan of the lens lineup, but you could certainly get around that with adapters and things, but then it's just going to cost you more money. When I say I'm not a big fan of the lens lineup, all their best lenses are really expensive. Canon and Nikon and Panasonic and Olympus have less expensive lenses. A lot of their kit lenses perform much better than, say, the Sony does, and that's my problem. I actually love the a6000. I'm probably going to pick one up, but I'm probably just going to be using it with older manual focus Nikon and Pentax and Minolta lenses and things like that. So Panasonic G7, I love this camera, but if you're 70% stills, you might want the 24 megapixel sensor. If that's not an issue to you, if resolution isn't an issue, and honestly, I've shot pro stuff with my G7 hockey teams. It's great. It's a beautiful camera for shooting photography. But if I know if you're heavily weighted for video, I never hesitate to recommend the G7. But the Fuji X-T10, well, I guess it's 16 megapixels too, but it's a bigger sensor. That's a great option too with some stellar lenses. So I would probably narrow it down to the Fuji X-T10 or the Panasonic G7 because both of those you can get at a really good price with some really good lenses without having to pay out the farm for it. You wouldn't have to pay a fortune for decent lenses to perform with the camera. With the a6000, it's going to cost you more to get into better lenses, and that's why it's going to cost more altogether. So I do love the a6000. I just wouldn't be happy with the kit lens, so the lenses I would have to add to that, unless I'm shooting older manual focus lenses, are going to cost me a lot more, especially too if I want to use like a made of bones adapter with other autofocus lenses, then you're talking almost as much money as the camera. So my choice there would be between the G7 from Panasonic and the Fuji X-T10, either of which I'm fine with, but just be aware that the G7 is much better video. The X-T10 is a beautiful photographer's camera. They're really not that great for video, but the G7 does both very well. So, I don't know, I guess perhaps I would say go with the G7. But the X-T10, if you're mostly talking about photography, you might love that camera too. Get them both in your hands at the store and try them out. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Leave your comments below. Let's have a discussion on the various bodies. Oh, and regarding the new a6100, we're hoping it might be announced at CP Plus in Japan next month in February 2016. But we don't know. It's still vaporware at the moment. We thought it would have been announced by now. So I wouldn't wait for it. I would go ahead and get something. And then I would, if there's something about it that you absolutely want it, well, then you can sell what you got and switch over. But I would get shooting now. I wouldn't constantly be waiting for a body that hasn't even been announced yet. That's my thoughts. What do you guys think on that one? Do you agree? Disagree? Thanks for your question. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon here at artoftheimage.com.